Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, friends out there from Zurich, Switzerland, here, and thank you for joining us at the E4Q Testing Summit. It is my pleasure to make and organize the kickoff of this wonderful event today with so many nice talks and so many fantastic people. And I was privileged to invite a panel discussion, and I have wonderful people here. I would like to introduce them to you. Host of this panel discussion is the Skills Club. Skills Club is the worldwide running network of IT experts, of certified people all over the world. If you want to find more out, please come to us, join the website, and you will meet colleagues from all over the world, share your experiences, and ask your questions. You will find the right people there. Today and this morning with me are two wonderful ladies beside two wonderful guys. And I would like to start with the ladies from totally different parts of the world. First is Amanda from joining us today from Canada. Hi, Amanda. She is a senior test manager for more than 20 years, a lot of experiences in different fields. She is the co-author of the Gambling Industry Tester Syllabus. Hopefully, we will hear a little bit more about that later on. So, what should I say? Good morning, Amanda, or what is the current time zone you are on here? So it's very early, right?
It's very early. It's middle of the night, early morning. I'm not really sure how to categorize that right now.
It's fantastic to have you here. Then with her is Leanne Howard from the other side of the world, from down under Australia. She is running for many years a lot of schemes and syllabi. She's a worldwide known expert. She is running ISTQB working groups, but also she's in charge for the Australian New Zealand Testing Board. Leanne, thank you very much for joining from the other totally different time zone. And then we have from Central Europe, I would say, Jeff Thompson. What shall I say about Jeff Thompson? You know, his expertise are widely documented. He's a frequent speaker, major industry events. He's one of the founding members of the ISTQB for a very long time, all involved in UKITB and many other boards and schemes. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us from UK. And last but not least is Richard Seidel. He is joining us. Actually, he is member of the Austrian Testing Board, but he is all over the world as a very well-known keynote speaker, book author. I think 6 books already you published in the field of IT and software quality assurance. And recently, you started with a very interesting podcast, and that is really the deal breaker here. A lot of people, more coming, and I'm following it. And that is not only entertaining, but it's quite interesting, and also the guests you are inviting. So thanks to all. You are ambassadors of the Skills Club. Ambassador means that you are representing the values and the targets of the Skills Club, and you are also serving voluntarily, not paid, let's say, in your spare time to answer all the questions of the members of the Skills Club. You are joining sessions, you are running sessions there. So thank you very much for that. So starting this panel discussion, before we come to the questions we got from the audience, with a more general and global question. In the ever-evolving landscape of software quality engineering, what trends have you observed recently? So what do you think is in front of us in the next 2, 3, 5 years? Just to start, give us some buzzwords. What are the current topics you have on your desk or you are speaking about on conferences? Leanne, give us an impression. What do you see? And what are kind of tendencies you see?
So I think a lot of the conversation that's happening at the moment is how do we ensure that our testers and quality engineers have the right skill set to move forward. The landscape of testing and quality assurance over the last even couple of years has changed drastically. We need much more technical skills than we used to. There is a lot around continuous testing. So most of our engineers now need some form of automation skills to ensure that we can keep pace with the demands of companies and organizations. And also we make sure that what we're delivering is of high quality. So I think the demands of our customers has significantly increased. And, you know, now is a time when our customers, if they don't like something within the first 3 or 4 seconds of downloading an app, for example, if it doesn't meet their needs, then they can easily move to another app that does satisfy their needs. So we need to make sure that we are very aware of that customer expectation, the customer excellence, and we understand what it is that they think is quality, because quality is a subjective term. So we need to make sure that we're engaging with our end customers and not just the BAs and the product owners that are writing the requirements.
Leanne, you are pointing out technical skills. When I started in the business 18 years ago, I was talking about additional soft skills. So does that mean when you say change dramatically, that the focus is now back more on technical skills, technical experiences, technical knowledge, or how you would describe the balance between soft skills and tech skills, Jeff? From your experiences, also related to the industry, is the importance of technical skills increasing currently, or what do you think?
Well, firstly, I'd like to say, Leanne's absolutely right. I think there is a big change coming, that's moving through the industry, which is the increased complexity. But I say a big change. You know, I've been doing this for 30 years, and it was very complex 30 years ago when we first started. It's now even more complex. So there is definitely a need for additional and better skills. We're seen as quality engineers now, not just quality analysts. So with engineering comes a skill, which means we can direct and we can move forward, which therefore means there has to be a level of soft skills in there as well. Yeah, it's okay. We'll need automators. We'll need people who can write tests. So that's never going to change. You know, I remember I ran Eurostar nearly 10 years ago now, and the subject of that was testing is dead. Well, I think we've proven that testing never dies. There will always be testing, but it's just going to get more complex. And actually, the relationship between us and our customer, and I mean direct customer, the customer who is fundamentally designing what we're testing, has to change. And part of that is soft skills still, very much soft skills. We can do a brilliant job, but if we don't communicate it effectively, then particularly as quality engineers, then people won't take us seriously. So absolutely agree with Leanne. What I would say though is there is also a move to sustainability that I see happening out there. That's a big conversation that I'm hearing here in the UK, is that we need to make IT sustainable. You know, those massive server farms sitting all over wherever are draining lots of energy out of our world, and we need to find a way of making that more efficient. So there's also this sort of underlying challenge of how, as quality engineers, can we make things more efficient? Can we make IT more efficient? You know, is it just a matter of putting lots of more people onto something to make it work, or should we actually do it efficiently in the first place? Which is I think it's kind of what we've all wanted over the last 40 odd years in testing, but it's given a real edge to the technical and the people management side of testing.
Can you, Amanda, share some specific examples of how staying up to date with these tendencies? And what Jeff just mentioned, sustainability, is that a regional topic here in Europe, or do you see that as a worldwide tendency, or how do you handle the regional differences in on the side of the requirements from the customer? How do you address them in your professional environment?
Yeah. For me, a lot of my requirements are really local to my jurisdiction for what I'm doing. So I'm not seeing that from a grand scheme, because my clients are really just local for me. But to keep up to date, I attend lovely conferences like this that are attending. They're great for anybody to be able to have access to new information. And we're very fortunate for A4Q for putting this on for us.
And Richard, in your podcast, you are addressing with people from the industry, but also some, I wouldn't call them newbies, but they are more not so much in a training business, but they are very much on a consultancy business and from the industry around the world. I would like to address some buzzwords like AI and blockchain, cybersecurity, Agile and DevOps. Is that are these the technical skills Leanne and Jeff mentioned, or do you see any other specific examples from your audience and from the people you are working with?
Yeah, I think that the frame is for especially the young people to be open-minded to all this new technology. So they invest a lot in personal development and trying out, be more motivated to use AI and blockchain, I think, and play with these things. And I think this is one skill, this movement to personal development, which is good for all our stuff in the software development. If there are developers or testers, developers with more testing skills and testers with more development skills, to go on forward and play with all this new technology we have.
And what
Sorry,
yeah.
Can I just jump in, Stefan?
Yes.
So I totally agree with all the panel discussion. I think we are really entering into a great kind of era, I guess, of quality engineering and testing professions, that the people that are coming in, the new people coming through the universities, or even starting to study IT and development, at high school or junior schools, have a much better opportunity, or much better opportunities than probably all of us on this call when we first started. It allows you to have that freedom of being an individual yourself. So what I mean by that is you have the opportunity to go more towards the customer excellence, working very closely with your customer, having that high level of interaction with the customer, and maybe focusing on the user experience, the accessibility type testing. Or you have the opportunity to go on the other side and be cutting edge, looking at brand new technologies that are coming out, such as AI. There's a lot of buzz around that at the moment, and really being at the forefront of those technology advances that are really going to change our industry. So I think people coming new into our industry or wanting to reinvent themselves, they have a massive opportunity right now to really make testing, quality engineering a profession and really shine in it. Whereas when I joined testing and IT, it definitely wasn't considered a profession, and it was kind of an add-on to developers. So I think we really need to be getting out and talking to the next generation about join quality engineering and testing, and really make that a profession, because it does open a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities.
So is it correct when I say from an add-on to a developer, we discussed a software tester as a profession, and now it is changed and developing into a software quality engineer, because the word engineer means much more than a tester. Is that correct, that we are now working on the description of the profession software quality engineer, or is it true, Amanda, Jeff, that AI and automation technologies are replace certain aspects of software testing? So in other words, for what you are good for in the future when AI can do everything, or is that just a speculation, or just as you said, as a buzzword? Is it currently just a hype?
I think it's a hype. I think that for years, everyone always has been scared for automation. It's going to come in and it's going to replace, and we're not going to be needed. And we've proven that that's not the case. We're still needed, and I think the same thing is going to happen here as well. I think we're always going to be needed, and I think we're very important. And like Leanne said, I think the industry is starting to realize how important we are, which is fantastic for people coming in.
Yeah, Richard. Oh,
Yes,
Jeff?
I think the AI helps us as a tool very much the next years to getting all rid of this hell test data thing, all this preparation thing, and so I think there will AI a good companion to us, and a good QA or a good developer will use AI as a tool like every other tool.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with what you've both said. I think the interesting thing with AI is that if you ask it, I asked ChatGPT in a conference recently, what's the future of testing? And it said ChatGPT was the future of testing. You then ask it a more specific question, like how do I do accessibility testing, something you mentioned just now, Leanne, and it can't answer that question because it's just, I think as Richard said, it's a data tool. And it's a way to understand data. It's not necessarily a solution to how we will test in the future. Linking back to Leanne's comments earlier on about accessibility and usability, I mean, they're two things that you really, really cannot automate. You know, there is an element of those you can automate, but you still need a human being to look at the screen. You still need a human being to be comfortable. Yeah, I've got to talk later on today about accessibility and the issues around how we as quality engineers need to drive change into the way people think about testing, and that actually there is still a human element to it, and removing all the manual testing is not actually the right solution.
I think AI actually, contrary maybe to most people's opinions, I think that's actually going to create massive opportunities for us as quality engineers, not take away opportunities, because what it's going to do is the simple things of the checking type activities, those are activities that, you know, the AI can easily learn and can generate the tests for those type of activities. But AI is never going to replace a human being, and the creativity and the unexpectedness and the freedom of how we do things, and maybe the illogical way that we sometimes do things, that's never going to be replaced by AI. So we are, in effect, going to have AI replace, let's say, the less exciting and stimulating parts of our jobs. That's then going to free us up to do the things that we as creative human beings actually want to do. We don't want to sit here and run the same regression tests 20 times. We want to be exploring and learning and putting ourselves in the position of the real end customer and playing with the system or the app as they would. So I think it creates opportunities from that perspective. And it's also going to create opportunities from the perspective of we don't quite trust as yet what AI is delivering to us and giving to us. So that again creates an opportunity for us as quality engineers to be looking at how do we test AI products to ensure that they're actually giving us what we think they are needing to give us. So we're in effect becoming customers of AI and testers to prove that we are getting the value that we think we're going to get from AI.
But that requires a lot of qualification and further qualification, additional skills, as you mentioned in the beginning. So from all of you, your advice to a newbie coming from the university, how such, and he's not getting prepared, correct me if I'm wrong, really to the requirements and needs in the professional environment. So what is your advice? What are the next steps on qualification to prepare such a person for these requirements and needs Leanne just described in with AI technology and so on. So what are the next steps where he can find, or this person can find the right qualification or the training got from? What is the content he should adopt?
I think there's one easy answer to that, and it's come to ISTQB, obviously. But in all seriousness, I think, people coming out of university, there are some really forward-thinking universities which include some elements of ISTQB training within their delivery of training. And in the UK, we have a whole apprenticeship scheme which is based around the ISTQB scheme and is funded by the government. So there's a lot of ways people can access that data, but in principle, the core of it is what we've already created, is the ISTQB Foundation. Now, obviously, with both Agile and together with everything else, as opposed to separate, showing where the industry is moving, running right through. We've got AI education, AI qualifications, but what I would say from somebody coming through brand new is listening to what the panel have said. This is all about excitement. This is all about change. This is all about learning new things. Richard said youngsters today like to just to play and learn, and I don't think it's any different to when I was a youngster. Not that I can remember that far back, but it's not that much younger. I was that's how I got involved in testing. I was playing with software to try and make it work when it didn't work, and I think. But now there is more. You're right, Stefan. There is more of a requirement to be more accurate, to be more sophisticated, to be more educated than perhaps we had historically, and particularly with things like AI, which I think certainly in my experience talking to my customers here in the UK, when you throw the word AI in and using it to help testing, it's like a panic hits the room. Very, very quickly, people are very nervous that we're perceptionally letting the computer take control. And we need to be clever enough to educate people that actually we're using it for the bits it does well, and we're not using it for anything else. We're not using it to take control and all those kind of things. But that's part of the education that you can get through coming through the ISTQB scheme.
But when you say they are scared to people or panic, you said, isn't it also that we have some unanswered question? So the pink elephant is in the room are ethical questions, right? So get replaced by robots, get influenced, controlled by robots, whatever, that we are losing control. And isn't it also necessary to train the people and educate the people on these ethical questions and problems we have? So how much is in the ISTQB answer? I mean, that the ISTQB is the answer for everything, Jeff, is not surprising me that you are giving us the answer. But can you share? Is this already also something you would say these are also skills a software quality engineer should be aware about?
I think the ethical question is an interesting one. I think I do take your point that people are scared. That's the point. They're scared of losing control. Historically, people have brought testing in because I've got to do testing. I'll bring some people in to do it. Now we're saying we're going to use some sophisticated tooling, etc., etc., etc. So actually, it's quite an open-minded person who will say, "Let's do that. Let's bring in new technology. Let's really challenge where we are." And that there are ethics at the back of that. In that, in principle, using AI, you effectively hand over some level of knowledge to that tool, whichever way that tool is generated. And so how do you do that? And how do you do that professionally? There's an IP issue in there, in that if I give ChatGPT or any other AI tool my code to test, it now has my code. So actually, these are all things that people need to understand. So and does ISTQB answer that question? No, I don't think it does. What it does is educate people on the background and the basic understanding. There is very little out there, I think, around the ethical and IP side of where we're heading as an industry. I've not seen an awful lot, to be fair. It's touched on, but it's not in detail.
And we have regional differences, right? I mean, Richard, is it also a topic where you see that Europe is limiting themselves again due to cultural, religional, or whatever reasons, comparing to the Anglo-American partners, where they give their scientists and engineers much more freedom to develop and to do the things? Or is the difference, are the differences not that huge in this case? What is your impression on that?
Yeah, I think we have a strong regulation there, and it's going on, and a lot of respect and fear for AI, and I think the AI especially is an innovation where European they want to play with it, and when I look in companies, I see the people want to use it, they want to try out. We have companies who already installed their own GPT in-house and use it for them. So there's much more energy there to use these things, and that's I think a good part, because we have to deal with it. AI is there and we have it, so we have to talk and we have to discuss about it and getting an attitude. How can we use it and how will we use it?
I think that areas like the A4Q conference and a lot of webinars that are coming out on certainly AI and around the importance of security now, cybersecurity. So I think that there's roles to play for different organizations and different ways of learning as part of our industry continuous learning. There are fundamental core concepts that are covered through schemes like ISTQB, and those core concepts are never going to change. We need testing techniques to be able to talk confidently about coverage, for example. Yet things like AI seem to be changing every week. There's something new or a new version or whatever. So schemes can't keep up with that faster pace of development and releasing and having to have that knowledge. So I think there is, or needs to be, and is, I think, to a pretty good extent, different ways that we can learn these things. And a panel discussion and forums like the Testing Summit allow that next, let's call it more up-to-date way of talking and discussing and sharing information. The same with webinars, which are, available in a lot of different forums. They tend to have that more cutting edge, more discussion and learning opportunities. And also the fact that most of them have that sort of question and answer session as well, that allow you to get your specific questions answered at that moment of time, rather than learning from a book maybe, or from a syllabus, which is a set criteria that you have to learn from and then use in your normal day-to-day life. So I think there's lots of different forums, again, that allow people coming into our industry now to reach out and use all of those different functions and forums that are now available to them.
Amanda, that topic I would like to ask you for your personal experiences on how networks and collaborations with other experts, maybe in your region, but also international, improved your understanding of software engineering. Did you really use it, how you use it, and how beneficial is it for you, or was it for you?
I think it's beneficial for sure. I think we're very fortunate to be exposed to what people are doing in different regions and what companies are doing in different regions. And I find it just, when you go to sessions like these or any of the webinars or conferences, there's always something that you can take away. You're like, that would work really well for our company, and you can take it back. And those are your benefits, right? And people are so fortunate now. It seems like there's So since COVID, I guess so many more of these types of events are being held online, and there's so much more exposure for people, and everyone can access it, which to me is fantastic. I know for me in Canada, there's not a lot of conferences that you can go to, so being able to attend these virtual ones are amazing opportunities for us.
But it's not only virtual, right? I know that you are traveling a lot and
Yes,
in-person conferences, right? So,
yes.
so yeah, but
Yeah,
I
there's
know
lots of in-person ones that everyone can go to as well. And there you get to meet so many different people, and there's always networking events, and it's just so wonderful. And then you get that one-on-one, like Leanne was mentioning, like, oh, you don't know exactly how you can take that back to your company and how you can do that, but you can meet with the speaker after, and you can ask those questions, and you can, and everyone is so fortunate, so kind, I find usually, and they'll take the time. I know when I've spoken at conferences, when someone comes to me after and they want to know more and they want to know it, and they're so excited, it's just that energy is so fantastic that you want to spend that time with them and help them. So
Leanne mentioned question and answer. We also asked for questions before this panel, and one question was about AI, but the other question was related to a field I would like to start to discuss with you and would like to ask you for your opinion. That is cybersecurity. I mean, if we are facing now the challenges let's say, coming with the war in Ukraine, but also on other hot spots we have currently, Africa, China, Taiwan, whatever is there. So it's becoming the cold war is becoming a little bit hotter, but we will have a cold war, some people said, after this war. And a huge challenge is cybersecurity. That's another hot topic, I would say, everywhere. What is the field software quality engineer or software tester, based on your experiences, could contribute to this? How much impact these needs coming alongside cybersecurity have on your job skills, your daily work, and on your work partnership with your clients? Is it currently a hot topic also for you have to handle, and what could a software tester or software quality engineer could contribute there? Jeff?
It's an interesting question, actually, because what I'm finding with the clients of my company is the need to do what I would call more security engineering. So if we look back historically to when we first started thinking about performance of our software, we used to leave it to the day before we went live, run a test to see if it performed properly. And all the testers have done for many, many years is push to say, no, let's do that earlier. Let's check that earlier. Let's get in as quickly as possible and stuff, and not leave it to the last moment. And I think if you speak to the average company, they'll think security testing is just some kind of penetration test they do the day before they go live. And sometimes it might stop them going live. Sometimes there'll be lots of issues that they just think, don't worry about. But I think what we can do is start to push this engineering process in, so that our functional testers, not just our security testers, but our functional testers, will actually start doing an element of security testing when they're running their tests. Because I think there's definitely evidence out there in the marketplace that the biggest risk to companies is not necessarily always external challenges. It's internal challenges. You employ somebody for 10 years, you think they're completely trustworthy, but overnight they can become your worst possible challenge. So it's an element of both. So I think we've still got to do all that stuff at the end to prove that it actually works, like we do with performance testing and all the other non-functional stuff. But really, we need to be swinging ourselves right back to the start of the life cycle and actually designing security in to make sure that when the scenarios you've referred to are actually covered, and we don't fall into the trap of delivering something into production that just meets a requirement that was written 10 days before we went into production, rather than at the start of the project. And I think that's again, we move back to this quality engineering process, where actually what we should be doing now, and this is back to professionalism that Leanne's talked about, the collaboration that Amanda's talked about, and all the stuff that Richard's mentioned. It's about how we all come together to give the full solution to a customer. Yeah, we can't have a perfect security system that then the system doesn't work or it stops people using it, for example. We need to do something that means we meet all those requirements in the best possible way. And at the moment, the only people I see in a program that has that visual, have that view, are testers and quality engineers. Yeah, so we have a large role to play. We might annoy people, we might frustrate people by challenging them and saying, you need to do this, but we need to have the answers as to why they have to do that, which is back to the education, back to Richard and the guys who are playing and learning and learning through playing and understanding the challenges before they happen, if you know what I mean. So that would be my view.
Richard, am I wrong when I describe my impression that especially the public sector in Germany and in Central Europe is suffering much more currently on cybersecurity issues than the private sector? I mean, it's obviously that the private sector has to invest a lot to protect because they are facing a lot of damages and losing a lot of money, and also the stakeholders and insurances requires kind of a level of protection. But why the public sector is not able to really solve this issue, and they are suffering on so many damages, data losses, data lags, downtime of servers and so on? Is there a specific reason? Is it a kind of culture? It's a cultural question, how to address problems? Is it a problem of we cannot really budgeting potential future damages, or what is the case here?
No, I think it's all of them. The projects in public sector have always the lack of budget. They are giving out to the industry their projects. They have not a lot of all this overall software development knowledge in their project. What do we need for quality, parts, security, performance, all these things. If you look at the project descriptions, they are always just a short abstract. And so the thinking all over quality and how to do software development, I think there is a big lack in the public sector. And we are facing but I think we are facing all over in the industry and in the public sector to get all this quality stuff, like Jeff said, all over the software development cycle, to get quality as an attitude, to get the quality habits in our requirements, in our architecture, in our development phase. So, and that's a main part of us quality engineers to get in this spirit all over the software development cycle.
But shouldn't we start earlier then with this kind of mind change that we are also starting to train at schools, universities, but also teachers at schools? If we are talking about, let's say, an early understanding, change of culture, so, you know, that we are always aware about this issue, that quality is much more than just functionality. Or is that, Lian, I see you agree. And what could association or network like us could contribute to this field? Because we are connected to universities, but we are not focusing currently on schools, right?
I think that, again, there's a lot of opportunity for us as leaders in, you know, our industry in quality engineering to actually go out and talk to people in the schools. We've actually got some programs here in Australia where we go and talk to, you know, 10, 11-year-old children about coming into our industry and what it actually means. And, you know, I think we need to change the culture. We need to change people's mindsets to think that quality is owned by everyone within the team. So everyone in the team plays a role in delivering, you know, quality, but also at speed and accelerated and meeting the customer's demand. I think that is a big mindset change that we've started to move the dial on that, but I don't think we're really quite there yet. So I think there's still work that we need to do in that area. And going back to one of my comments very early in our discussion, 3 seconds, you have 3 seconds to engage your customers, or they'll walk away and they'll go and use a competitor's app. So I think starting to have those conversations and educating people out. What does that mean? And how do we as professionals need to change our way of working, think about things in a different way? That absolutely does need to start, earlier and start people thinking about that. And also, encouraging people to come into an industry which is at the moment so rich and giving people so many opportunities to learn new things and be continuously learning and developing. Our industry, I bet if you ask everyone on this panel and anyone that attends the testing summit, one day compared to the next day is never the same. Even 1 hour to the next hour is never the same. So if you want to come into an industry where you're continuously learning, you're continuously being challenged, where you need to be creative, where you need to think outside the box, this is the industry to come to. And we need to get that message out much earlier so that people, when they are starting to make their career decisions, are coming and joining us and joining our amazing industry.
Wow, what a statement for our profession. If I were not into it, I would definitely go now. In the end. And I think Richard should think about to address his podcast, because that is something young people using to change a little bit the audience you are addressing, Richard, to catch the young people and to get and think about not only to come to the profession, but to think about security issues and so on, right? So that's the most important.
Maybe one short story. I have feedback from one of our part of our podcast here people, and she wrote me that she now will do the certification, the ISTQB certification, and go to software testing. She was lost in her branch where she works, and now she wants to become a tester. So it's great.
Fantastic. At the end of our conversation, ISTQB is again the answer of everything. So Jeff is happy, and now we can close this session. Thank you guys for joining this panel discussion and opening the testing summit. It was fantastic to listen to you, to get some insights and some thoughts and maybe also inspiration for our future work. I'm looking forward to meet you all in person, Amanda, because that is always better than virtual, to discuss, to share, and also to have some fun, because software quality engineering also means fun. And I would like to encourage everyone who is listening to us to stay tuned, to join the sessions later today here at the Testing Summit. We have a full packed program with interesting talks from all over the world. You can stay in contact. You can send us your questions, and you can also get connected with them directly. Also after this Testing Summit, if you need help and advice in your professional life, you should join the Skills Club, because the Skills Club is the network where you meet not only the fantastic ambassadors we have here, but also colleagues from all over the world, different domains and branches. You can exchange, interfere, can share best practices and so on, and also address your questions and problems, and you will get definitely support and help. So thanks again for joining. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes setting this wonderful panel discussion up. And I'm pretty sure it's not the last time we met together. Looking forward to it. Stay healthy. Take care. Thank you very much. And most important, have fun, guys. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.